We have 16% that are held up until their trial because their bail is exceedingly high, right? And the judge does that for a reason. What's
Based
the
on
reason?
Severity of the crime.
Severity
usually.
of the crime. Because let's be honest, what we don't want is your industry bailing out people that are a very serious threat to society. We can say innocent until proven guilty all day long, but you know what? In some cases, that the crime has occurred and it's a bad crime.
And the judge sets that accordingly, which they should be able to do because they're, professionals who it should be at their discretion.
Okay, so we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to talk with someone else from your industry. But what is your message to people listening? What is your message to your legislators?
Why fix something that's not broken? And why try to reinvent the wheel and make, if they want to make adjustments, minor adjustments in a system they believe is flawed.
You already have.
Right, exactly. But to go ahead and try to amend a constitution, my message is make sure you know what this is about.
Do your homework, folks.
Do your homework.
All right.
Because this is a scary proposal.
It sure is. All right. Well, we're going to continue this conversation. Liza Davis, thank you very much for informing us.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
I appreciate you too. Thank you.
So as I mentioned, we got a great perspective on this from Liza Davis, but we also want to bring in Andrew Bloom on this topic too. So Andrew is with 3D Bail Bonds. And Andrew, you heard what Liza had to say. You're here in the studio. I mean, what is kind of your feedback on everything that's going on? And why are all you bail bonds people in this battle year after year?
Well, year after year, there's been a push to eliminate our industry. The push blames us for indigent people being held in jail. We're not the ones who set the bail amounts. The judges are. The judges have the opportunity and the power to let people go on promises to appear, and they do on a regular basis. Like you said, 61% of people are released without a financial condition. So 61% of people are released on their own recognizance without financial conditions. The 23% of people who are released on financial conditions are ones who had achievable bail, and 16% of people are held with unachievable bail. That is your preventative detention. That's the worst of the worst, the people who have committed genocide, so to say, the murderers, the rapists, the people that are held, that a lot of people would say we should be able to hold them without bail. Essentially, they're being held with bail that they cannot achieve, because if they could have achieved it, they would have gotten out.
So let me ask you this, but is there any amount too high for bail bonds people? I mean, why aren't you bailing these people out?
The risk is too high, and bail bondsmen are not allowed to do bonds above their writing authority with their sureties, and the sureties look at these cases and tell bondsmen, we don't want to do that bond. That risk is too high. We're not interested in the $20 million bonds for the guy that killed the Yale woman. That bond is a great example of the system being used as preventative detention. He was held preventatively with a $20 million bond. They argued that. They brought it to the Supreme Court and tried to say that the bail amount was excessive, that the trial judge abused his authority with the bond amount, but the Supreme Court ruled that, the Connecticut Supreme Court ruled, in their opinion, that the trial judge had not abused his authority with the bond amount. The trial judge made an error by not allowing him to argue for a 10% option, so they were able to go back and argue for a 10% option, which they promptly denied, and he stayed in jail. No bondsman would post that bond.
Because it's also the wrong thing to do, right? You do have scruples. You do have a conscience. You do have a code of ethics, right? So let's mention that too.
Right.
It's not always about the money.
No, it's not.
The other question I have too is, I mean, for judges that have, our courts are backed up, for a judge to know that the defendant is going to be in that courtroom the day that they're scheduled to be there, and that the bonds people are going to bring them to that court appearance or hold them accountable for that, that's also got to make their life a little bit easier, correct?
There's nothing more frustrating for a judge to show up, open up the file of the next case, be ready to start talking about it, call the name, and the person's not there. The defendant doesn't show up, and now, you have a stenographer there, you have
Mm-hmm.
a prosecutor, you have an attorney, the public defender or the attorney,
Maybe even the victim.
maybe the victim's advocate, the bail commissioners. All these people are there working, and the defendant didn't show up, and so the judge is rightfully upset and sets a new, orders a rearrest and sets a new bail. If the person was on a promise to appear, there's no one out there looking for them. There's no magic warrant squad. There's no one who holds them accountable for getting back to court. Bail bondsmen do when there's a bond. A 10% option, there's no one holding them accountable. Nobody has the right to go out and find them and arrest them except for the police, and the police do not proactively go out looking for people who have failed to appear.
When do they find them?
When they're committing another crime.
Absolutely. We're speaking with Andrew Bloom with 3D Bail Bonds about just, again, some back and forth that's going on in our state right now, to change the Constitution, to mess with what's already working, as Liza very eloquently said. So you yourself have put yourself out there. I mean, how many people have you gone and found in over your career that have skipped their bond?
Back when I used to go out and chase them, and I'm getting a little older here, a little long in the tooth. However, when I was younger and I went out, I had 1,278 arrests before I stopped chasing. Now I just help people get out.
Can you give us an example of one of those arrests and recaptures, if you will, that you'll never forget?
Oh my, there's so many. One of my favorite stories to tell would be a gentleman that I affectionately called Spider-Man, because when we went into the apartment building looking for him. It was a 3-family house, and we searched through the house looking for him, and then I went up the front stairwell and I shined my light up the stairway, and he was just tucked in the corner holding onto the walls, and he looked like Spider-Man up there. He got a little upset when I said, "Hey, Spider-Man." But then when I explained it to him, he got the joke. And it's most of them, when we find them, they are relieved to not be on the run looking over their shoulder anymore, because it's dangerous for them. It's dangerous for everybody. Police officers, when they pull somebody over and they don't know if somebody has a warrant, they don't know what they're getting.
Right.
And then the person takes them on a high-speed pursuit because they had a traffic warrant, or they take them on a high-speed pursuit because they had a failure to appear for a larceny 6. And some of the worst people, we just had somebody fight ferociously with our bail enforcement team this past week on a $1,000 bond that they had missed court on. And it was over a $1,000 bond. It was ridiculous.
Well, and this is what we're up against. So, I guess there's, things that we could do. And I think the number one thing is, before I started looking into this, I know I didn't understand, you think bondsmen are a bunch of knuckle draggers, right? But they're not. We talked to Liza. Liza is a woman in the business. She's got a business that she's been running successfully, as have many people. This is across the state of Connecticut and in other states. But you want those folks out there for political reasons or for whatever reasons, want to change a system that works. And that's got to be frustrating from you. So what can people do, or what do you want people, what's your call to action, if you will?
My call to action would be reach out to your legislators. Let them know that you don't want to eliminate people's constitutional right to bail. You don't want to lose your constitutional right to bail. If somebody gets arrested and there's no constitutional right to bail, the only choice is let them go or hold them preventatively. And that will again increase the prison populations or release the wrong person to go out and commit another crime, and maybe go back after their victim.
So you say, well, why does this impact me? I don't plan on going to jail. I don't plan on having to post bail. But what I do have to do is worry about safety. And I have to worry about people in my neighborhood and people in my life doing bad things around me, right? So the more I know that there's people and there's checks and balances in our system, which there is currently, Why would we want to mess with that? That's what I really don't understand. And you've got a couple of people, and I'm just going to call them out. I can, you can't. But, we've got a few people that are behind this thing that really need to stop and to tell, Judge Andrew McDonald, he's the one that's behind this, eliminating the bail. And to think that a bunch of judges are going to get in a room and make this decision and then we have to live with it, that shouldn't be how the process works, in my opinion. So it's very disturbing, I think, and it should be disturbing for all of us. So, like I said, this is a new topic area for me, but it's one that has, gotten my attention and needs to get other people's attention because they don't see what goes on at the legislative office building. They don't see what goes on during the legislative sessions. Decisions are made that impact everybody, and we do have a voice, folks.
Every legislator that I've spoken to on both sides of the aisle, every one of them, with the exception of the couple that presented this, have been, oh no, this is a bad idea. So my hope is that if enough people reach out to their legislators, that all of the legislators will think it's a bad idea.
Well, and it should be decision by majority, not minority. That's my opinion too. And like you said, this isn't political. This isn't being, it's not whether you're Republican or you're Democrat. It's all about whether you're a citizen and you want to preserve your safety and your rights to bail and your rights to due process and everything else that goes with that. Well, we'll keep in touch with you, Andrew. Keep up the good fight, and we'll see what happens. But it's just unfortunate that so many resources and time and energy has to go into something that to me seems like a no-brainer.
Thank you.
All right, it's been a pleasure.